You know the drill. If I'm missing for a while, I have lots to share. First of all, big news. I'm a natural blonde. Y'all are getting a little leg today because you're well behaved. And I'm expecting, well, no, we're expecting a twin. Henry is getting a sibling. Actually, he's getting 2 siblings. As you can see over my shoulder, we also have the makings of a fairly fabulous kitchen. And while we were away from each other, I have been busy. I have been out in these streets getting nice things for our place. I've also been working very hard so that I can pay for it, but that's another story that you'll get a little later down. I'm answering your questions. I'm showing you around. I'm Kelly Johnley, and this is Bajan Renovation. I hope you all realize that you're getting a blonde with some leg today, okay? Clearly I was doing other things. But the last time we were here, guys, the kitchen arrived. So you would have seen the delivery of the kitchen, and we would have also given you some highlights of how the kitchen was being made at Crafted by Wood. So as you know, they would have done all of the boxing and they would have sprayed it on site. Then all the units were delivered here. Now I want to point out a few things about the kitchen before we get into costing. If you're wondering where the cupboard fronts are, they're actually over here. The reason that they're not on is that the guy who was doing the installation told me that a few of them didn't quite fit the way he liked. So they did them over, so they brought them back. So they are here. These are the cupboard fronts, and a few of them are laying in another area. Also, as you look around, you may notice a few scratches, and you might be like, but Kelly, this thing scratched. Well, I was told from the beginning of this process that, Kelly, we give the cupboards a 1 coat before they come down, and then we give them a different and a finishing coat when they come in, simply because obviously in the installation process and in transporting them, things can happen that they expected the scratches. So I was told from the outset that yes, while they have sprayed and given it its base, expect the final spraying to be done here. Now, in terms of the process of the work, as you know, we would have been working with McLean from McLean Designs. She has already gone ahead and gotten the wood for our live edge mahogany countertop. I saw some pics. So it has been delivered, it has been cut, and now that this is down, she would have come sometime last week to do a final measurement, and she has reiterated several times with me, Kelly, we were able to get a slab of wood that is very exact. So she wanted to make sure that she used a form board to cut out exactly where it will go, because this wood can only cut once, and if she cuts it wrong, we're going to actually lose the roughness from the edge, which would be very unfortunate. Since then, I went to Terrific Tiles, because while this is the mahogany edge, this side of the kitchen and this area is going to have quartz. Kelly clearly picked the most expensive slab of quartz they have, but I'll get to that later. So I went in, I chose the slab, and one of their team members came in and did a measurement. So they measured all of this area. They also measured for the backsplash. So those 2 pieces are actually coming next week. Now, in terms of the cupboard handles, so I went looking around for the cupboard handles. I only went to 2 places. I went to Koyman and I went to Carter's. I went to Carter's first. The guys were hot, but I didn't quite like the selection for the handles. They had stuff, it just wasn't my taste. But when I went to Koyman, I found some things that I liked. Now, I admit, they did have a rose gold that I liked in the handles, but they didn't have enough styles of handles in that finish. So I actually ended up going with black. So this one, this style is actually what we're going to put here on the all the uppers. So all the way around, this is the handle that we're using. For the lower cabinets, we are going to use the squares. So that will go here. And for all the drawers, we will have these. Well, as you can imagine, we can't put on the handles until the drawer faces are on. So that is where we are with that. Now, in terms of what does this kitchen cost? Now, the figure has not settled in my spirit as yet. Don't mind, I have been spending money on the kitchen. Now, let me break down what different things cost and where you can either save money, or if you're going to spend the money, at least be aware of what you are doing. I just might call in for things, and when the bill came, my awareness started. If I simply wanted the framing of the kitchen in this melamine, I think y'all know what the word is. This unit setup here would have roughly been around $20,000. I did receive a discount, but this would have been around $20,000. To paint it, painting is separate. The painting of the cupboards is an additional $4,000. And this is not paint that you could go in with a paintbrush. So to get these painted and get the team to come back, the color is $4,000. Then now, the countertop, the mahogany countertop, is in the vicinity of $2,500. And the quartz, I learned today, after I told them go ahead, and because I have a relationship with the people at Terrific Tiles, they went ahead, and now I hear that I got $4,000 for them, for the quartz, because I chose a nice piece. I say that to say you can see where you can save. There's no law that says you need to paint your cupboards. There's certainly no law that says you need to have a mahogany top. And there actually are large tiles that you can purchase which are considerably cheaper that you can use to make up a counter space. So I just wanted to split up the cost, because obviously if you stick it all together, it's like, oh my gosh, which is how I feel. But that is where costs go. I have not gotten the cost of the cost for the tiles here, but I do remember seeing that they were like $2 and something cents for one. So at least I know that's not $1 million. And you know how pricing theory works, that when you put a small price next to a much bigger price, all of a sudden this sounds cheap. Well, guess what? After they tell me $4,007 to get the counter slab, to purchase the slab, to get it cut and to get it installed, all of a sudden all the other smaller numbers are going over my head. As for the hardware, I am pretty sure I spent like either $460 or $490 on the handles. Again, these finishes are very much optional, so you can keep that in mind when you're going about getting your kitchen, because I don't find it very helpful to say, hey, you know, a kitchen is $25,000 or $30,000 when you know full well that your countertop and your colored cabinets are nice to have. So that's where we are with the kitchen at the moment. So one of the things that has genuinely surprised me about this kitchen is how big it is. Because I don't know if you remember the space that it was in before. This is actually the original kitchen space from here to here. Yes, here to here. To here. And it like came forward like this. But the point of the matter is, right, I'm not quite over how much room it is, because even when I saw it on the drawings, they kept emphasizing how small it was. Now, I mean, yeah, it's not a chef's kitchen, but this is still pretty good space for somebody that doesn't really cook. But the other thing that surprised me, and I know I said it, right, and it's so interesting when you're saying things and in theory, but then see it bear out in practice. I am not short. I am 5'7.5", right? These cupboards are high. Like, if I want to hide things from my daughter, I just gotta put them in here. Like, I feel like we have been making use of our vertical space. So we have a very grown looking kitchen, and when I'm walking in, I can honestly tell you it gives the place a nice feel. It took a little time for the color to settle with me, because yes, even though I know I chose the colors. It's after sitting in so much white for such a long time, initially it hit me kind of hard, like, what's this big colorful thing I put in my house? But it does give the house a nice feel. In my opinion, it feels quite elevated. So I'm officially stoked, and I'm going to emotionally process out that money. Like, I ain't even studying that properly right now, okay? I don't know if Terrific Tiles want a dishwasher or somebody to help mop, but you know, I'm not too proud at this stage. Not too proud. Oh, before we get too far in the show, I wanted to say hi to those of you who follow on YouTube. Someone brought to my attention very recently that we actually have 1,000 members in our YouTube community. Now, I will admit, we really do use our YouTube page to store the videos, but I am so glad that so many of you from in the region and in the wider diaspora find this to be a little slice of home, whether you are investing locally or if you just want to hear and see what's going on in Barbados. Anyways, I just wanted to say hi, because those of us who are here, we tend to bounce up on one another. So a special hello to you. So I'm answering a question that I got from one of you, which I think is a great question, and I wanted to make sure all of you had the benefit of the response. And the question was along the lines of, since you knew at the time of applying for your mortgage that your renovation budget was going to be tight, why didn't you apply for more money for the renovation from the bank at that time? Or why didn't you go back to the bank for additional funding? That's a great question. So there's a very specific reason why I did not want to push the envelope with the renovation budget. At the time of applying for the mortgage, bear in mind that I am employed with a company and I have a fixed salary. And at that time of applying for the mortgage for this house, I already had 2 other mortgages on 2 separate properties. My debt to service ratio, which is actually explained pretty well by Nikita Gibson in the Bajan Renovation article, my debt to service ratio was already over 50%. Now, what your debt to service ratio is, it is a calculation that the bank uses to determine the relationship between your debt, your total debt, and your total income. And it really just comes, they work it out by adding up all of your monthly obligations, and this will include your credit card, your car payment, your cell phone, every single thing, and dividing it by your total gross income. Now, banks typically allow you to borrow up to 40% of your debt service ratio, including what they are going to lend you. So that is how they determine how much money you qualify for. Now, what I was doing from the beginning, or should I say for a number of years, is that I always tracked the rental income from the units, and yes, I pay taxes on it, but I was able to show the bank that there was verifiable external income coming in. That was taken into consideration when I qualified for the mortgage for this house. Now, because I knew that for want of a better word, I felt like I was getting a pretty sweet deal by them even considering issuing the 3rd mortgage. I was not going to go and add any additional expenses like, you know, I want a quartz countertop and I want to have these types of tiles and these pretty finishes. So I submitted what is called a bare bones renovation, which means that it would have brought the house up to compliance, but I knew it never included the niceties. In hindsight, yes, I feel I would have pushed for some more money, but when my transaction was being done, I didn't want to put myself in a position to A, look unattractive as a borrower, or B, look like I was mad. So I tried to keep the renovation as contained as possible, and that is why I did not borrow any more than I did. That said, particularly as we're going into the holiday season, and this is a bit of a segue, you will probably see, as I already am seeing, a lot of lenders are going to be issuing what I call quick unsecured loans. They range from $5,000 to $30,000 depending on your financial position. If you know that you want to purchase a property in the new year, just be mindful of how you take on additional debt right now, because what you may see as extra $300 monthly payment, $400 monthly payment, all of that is going to go into the calculation that will affect how much you can borrow on a bigger item. It's not for me to tell you what to borrow money for or if you need it, but if you know that you are going for these funds just because it's accessible or you want to have a fun Christmas, please think about how it is going to ripple through your financial reporting, because it will catch up with you when they work out your debt service ratio. Now, another thing that worked in my favor for purchasing this property is that I was always paying ahead on the other properties. So meaning that, for want of a better word, I owned more of the other two properties than the bank owned. Now to Republic Bank, who gave me the money for this one, it made me a bit more attractive because it showed that I have a significant equity stake in the other properties. It also showed that I was applying the rental income to the loan principal of the other ones, which is what I told them I was doing. So, as of course they will look behind the scenes, not just at how much debt you have, but how you're spending your money. The fact that I could have been paying ahead on the other mortgages showed that I had the fiscal room to take on another one, because there's no law that says I need to pay ahead. But if I pay ahead to almost twice of one of them, it means that I still had the additional cash to cover this. So a bank takes into consideration a number of things. The debt service ratio is a big one, but they are going to look at what you borrow money for, and they are going to look at how you pay and service your debts. And how you pay and service your debts is a big one. But in a nutshell, that is why I did not reach too high for the additional funds for the house. I didn't want them to think that I was crazy. Now, speaking of preparing for the new year, I know that buying property is usually a new year goal. I very much would like you to be prepared, or at least make decisions that serve your best interest. In this publication, we did cover a lot of information that speaks to not looking for property, but also the banking information, the steps you're going to go through. We covered the legal process. We have an article called Rent, Build, Buy, because while we are here purchasing property, I don't think purchasing property is the best solution for everybody, but it's important to know why you're making the decisions and how they fit into your bigger financial picture. Another thing that I really liked is that we have two articles, one written by a banker and one written by a financial educator, that speak to the process of applying for a mortgage. A lot of people get overwhelmed by the process. It's really well detailed here, as well as how calculations are done based, for example, the debt service ratio that we spoke about. So if you're considering buying, or you want to make a sound decision as why buying may not be for you, I would definitely say pick up a copy of Bajan Renovation magazine, because it is packed with timeless information that can guide you through your property decision. Now, I know a lot of you have purchased Henry. I know this because there are very few copies of Henry left, but we have some news. We are expecting Henry is about to have a little brother and a little sister. So here's what's happening. We took all your feedback from this publication, and we've already started to put together one really fabulous bumper issue for the holiday season. And if you're wondering, Kelly, what could you possibly put in the Christmas edition when this had in so much? Just wait and see. I am actually more excited about the holiday issue than I was about this one in terms of content. So we are going to have a good Christmas together. But as I said, we're expecting a twin. Now, I would have shared with you guys sometime last year that we are the publishers for Pivot Magazine. Well, these publications are coming together as a bumper flipbook, meaning when you get your Bajan Renovation magazine, you will be able to read the full publication front to back, and you will be able to read Pivot magazine. Now, Pivot is a little different in that the content, it is what I like to call a peer-to-peer publication. It is definitely along the lines of career and lifestyle. But here's the surprise. When we published Pivot last year, I held back 100 copies because I knew we'd be publishing again and we would need to send it out to prospective advertisers. Well, fortunately, those advertisers came back on board, so I have quite a few of those copies. So when the final copies of Bajan Renovation go out into Massey stores, we're actually going to package them with the last copy of Pivot. They'll be available for the same price, but I really wanted to get your feedback and just to give some of you an opportunity to interact with the products. I'm partial, I think it's great, but feedback is also welcome. And in the coming weeks, we will be sharing with you what is coming in the holiday issue of Bajan Renovation magazine. Let us just say we are going into Christmas batting at a high level, and we are going into the new year with some financial wisdom. I'm very excited, and I hope you all will be too. So the last time we were together, I asked for your help with the bedroom cupboards. Remember, I told you that just based on where we were in terms of the expenses for the renovation, I've had to put my bedroom cabinet system on the back burner. I simply do not have the funds for it right now. And in terms of being able to move in and get compliance from the bank, having cupboards in a bedroom is not a requirement. Having a kitchen and a bathroom that is functioning is. But you did come through with some really good suggestions for me, because remember the inspo shots that I shared with you, I wanted to find some wardrobes. So you sent quite a few options for auctions that were taking place, and you also sent me back to Koiman. Now when I went to Koiman, they had a unit that was on display, which I did like. However, it wasn't in stock anymore, and they wouldn't be getting it until a bit later down. Also, the dimensions would have meant that when I put it up against the wall, it would have covered over the window. That's a no, that would have bothered me to no end. So I shelved that option. I did go to the auctions. I did not buy a wardrobe that I saw there, even though it was very nice, because what I didn't realize is that, you know, when we open a wardrobe, there's usually a bar that runs across that you hang the clothes on. Well, in a lot of these antiques, they don't have a bar that runs across. What they actually have are a number of hooks that fall from, I guess you could say, the top of the wood frame. So if I bought that piece, I would have had to have made, I guess, some major adjustments to it. And I didn't want to buy an antique to then go and make adjustments to it. To me, I felt like I was kind of destroying the integrity of the piece. I did go home and sleep on it, and then I had to be very practical. I said, Kelly, the money that you are spending now, you really do have to spend it, I guess, not in order of, you need to be spending the money that you have now on the things you absolutely have to spend money on. I absolutely have to spend money on the kitchen. So I'm just in that place of the budget now. In terms of why things aren't going any faster, the truth is I cannot afford for 6 and 7 teams to come down here at the same time, because if all of them work at the same time, you know what's going to happen? All the bills are going to come at the same time too. So I'm focusing on finishing the kitchen. We already bought the hardware, the toilets, the vanities for the bathroom. They're just not in yet. I don't know if I shared it in a previous episode, but part of the reason why you have not seen the smaller things like the lights and the toilets, etc., is that the contractor said is that when you start to bring smaller things into the house needs to be very close to completion with very few people going in and out. That is how things go missing. So you don't bring these things down here until somebody is living here and you're about to lock everybody out. So even though you guys aren't seeing them, they do exist. All right, guys, that's a wrap for now. Continue to take a look in the stories and you will be seeing our updates because things are happening. I promise you, I am working very hard in these fields to make sure that we can get our house finished, because we will be in for Christmas. Actually, we'll be in well before Christmas, but these bills have to be paid. So until next time, I'm Kelly Johnley and this is Bajan Renovation.